In 1944, a German Junkers 188 bomber crash-landed near Exbury House in the New Forest after being shot down, with all 7 crew members on board dying. The incident is shrouded in mystery due to unanswered questions about the plane's flight. But the key may lie in the real reason Southampton was chosen as the principal Allied embarkation port for D-Day. The conventional wisdom is the port was an obvious choice of British High Command. The US Army version is slightly different. Both versions agree in peacetime that Southampton was a thriving passenger port and a familiar gateway for visitors to the British Isles, although it had suffered severely from enemy bombing in 1940. As a result, the port was closed for 2 years to all but coastal traffic, mostly colliers for the power station, with much of its cargo handling equipment removed to other ports. Yet despite the considerable damage, Southampton remained one of the best ports in England, with deep water, 7 dry docks for ship repair, over 7 miles of quayside and a relatively small tidal range allowing ships to berth at most times of the day, a unique advantage especially in wartime. This is where the versions differ, because according to the US Army, British officials were concerned the port was too vulnerable to be used as a base for operations and feared they would lose their allies to another Luftwaffe attack. The enemy had made great propaganda value from the destruction of the port in an article with aerial photographs featured in the popular Luftwaffe magazine Der Adler, the Eagle, and translated for foreign publication. As far as the Bishop of Winchester was concerned, when he visited his parish, he believed residents thought they were finished. The government sent Wing Commander Hodsall to investigate what went wrong, and his report was highly critical. This evidence contradicts the British account that Southampton was the obvious choice, but does perhaps explain the errant plane crash, and go some way to explaining how the enemy never discovered the build-up that occurred in plain sight, so to speak. Like any invading power, the enemy believed their own propaganda that Southampton was finished and the deserting Luftwaffe crew were heading where they thought they would be safest, only to be bounced by 2 RAF squadrons. But that theory would make the US Army choice a tremendous gamble, even reckless. How could they justify such an irresponsible strategy? How could they be sure the build-up would go undetected and the Armada would remain safe until D-Day? On the 26th of January, 1942, out of the blue, according to the records of the dock manager, he was notified of the impending arrival of 3 steamers carrying ocean cargoes consisting of timber, foodstuffs, and a mixed consignment. 11 days later, on the 6th of February, he noted, "This afternoon saw the arrival of the first 2 vessels with Lend-Lease cargo." Under the pressure of the incoming flood of American aid, the ban on ocean traffic was lifted. Since the commencement of the new ocean cargo traffic on 6 February, runs the entry in the diary, on the 2nd of March, 9 ships have been discharged, representing a total tonnage of 36,684. And then, despite the difficulties experienced in recommencing such operations, everything has proceeded in a comparatively satisfactory way, and the arrangements for dealing with future arrivals should facilitate things all round.
Swung the martial wealth of the free world onto the soil of Britain. Here was Montana's copper, Australia's wheat, Pennsylvania's steel, Texas cattle, the nimble fingers of the women in the aircraft factories of California, the sweat and muscle of the Canadian mines. The loaded and crated determination of the United Nations to come.
On the 13th of April came the further observation. With better weather conditions yesterday than recently, the ships were able to turn out a record tonnage of cargo for one day, a total of over 4,000 tons. Next day went one better. At the Port Emergency Committee meeting, it was noted with satisfaction that the cargo output of over 5,000 tons exceeded the previous day's record figure. On the 17th of April came the best news of all. The discharge of ocean cargoes of lease-lend and other material continues to make good progress generally, and justification of the proposal to send these ships to Southampton. A little under a month later, the docks were virtually working to full capacity, and through 1942-1943 the Liberty class of ship continued to arrive in the port with cargoes from the USA and Canada, as did vessels from the West Indies, Central and South America, India, Australia, and the Far East, all under the nose of the enemy. In his book The English Gateway from 1951, Bernard Knowles says, the total freight tonnage dealt with in 1942 was almost equivalent to the pre-war traffic of 1938. Saving catastrophe from the air, Southampton's maritime renaissance was assured, although in the Luftwaffe's persistent attentions lay a constant source of anxiety. Of course, Operation Fortitude with a fake army, commanded by General Patton, and fake radio traffic, together with the double agents, convinced the enemy that the real invasion would happen in the Pas-de-Calais. Yet all these deceptions were predicated on the belief that Southampton was finished in 1940. It is only in the wake of these events that the granting of city status in 1964 can be properly understood. Southampton sought city status before World War II, therefore the question arises, why did it take so long afterwards to be recognized? The reason given is that the courage and determination of other cities such as Coventry were generally recognized at the time. However, as far as Southampton is concerned, it is the fallout from the Hodsall report that is remembered in the newspapers and in Whitehall. On the other hand, because of the necessary secrecy surrounding D-Day and Operation Overlord, the role of Southampton is still not properly recognized.